All right, so welcome to the ELTS webinar for the month of September. We're discussing online assessment today, and I want to emphasize that this is going to be a kind of seminar and discussion. So I'd really like everyone to participate. I am not going to try to speak as much as I have in the past a lot. Now, I've not received any feedback about that. Maybe people like that. I don't know, but it's just something I'm going to try differently from now through our December webinars and just see how that goes. So please, here's Moises. So please, I'm going to basically be generating questions. So please, volunteer and speak as much as you'd like. I'd love to hear all of your opinions. So, of course, we want to talk about online assessment. With COVID, we all learned how to do online assessment. And I want to think we're really in a sort of going into a post-COVID era now, right? I would like to believe. And some of us are still doing online assessment. Some of us are maybe back to paper-based assessment. So that's really my first question. Are you back in the classroom? Or are you still teaching online? So I'd like to hear about that first.
Ladies first.
We're back in the classroom here in Rochester, New York at Rochester Institute of Technology. We do still utilize online resources within our classroom as another teaching strategy.
Can you tell us more about that?
So the answer to your second question, we have used assessments online rather than paper-based assessments. And we find just the ease of uploading or having students do it has led us to keep that strategy in our classrooms.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
We will be back face-to-face, and the 2nd of October, we will start the next month. The exams will be face-to-face. I personally believe that the first 3-4 months will be totally challenging and demanding because we have to set our mind, renew, and reschedule our mind. Because for 3 years, we are working online. It will be new experience for both teachers and students.
I absolutely can confirm that your perception of that, Kevin, because when our IT went back to in-person classes, we saw at least in our classes, and I think it was true of other RIT regular classes in the department, that we saw a decline in student grades, students' ability to get their tests, get their work done and completed on time. So it is quite a shift for them to come back to the classroom.
Copy. What do you anticipate? Do you anticipate going?
I anticipate a lot of challenges.
Yes.
Do you anticipate going back to paper-based tests, or do you think you'll still, now that you, as Christine was saying, now that you have this stock of tests?
Here, I would like to late Tim McNamara. I had a chance to visit him. We lost a great figure in language testing and assessment. Consequential validity, how the standardized tests have effect on people's lives, based on Tim McNamara 2006. Since here, in Turkey, people are more taste-based because their mentality has shaped the culture of testing is more dominant than the culture of learning. It means that they are interested in multiple choice, they are interested in tests, they are interested in those strict rules. And all in all, we will go to the paper-based because they believe that online test is not a test. We do not have that much control over it. Some challenges we encounter, the students, lack of digital literacy, infrastructure, ethics, cheating, or unethical behavior, what we may call it, euphemism. And they do not buy the online test. They believe that it should be paper, and our placement tests, we did 3, they were all paper-based. And one we will have on Friday, I think that it will be paper-based as well, because of those standardized tests, they do not consider online tests that much of value. They're
Okay.
not,
So very traditional beliefs about tests then.
regretfully.
And when you say they don't believe, are you talking about professors and administrators, or are you talking about the students?
We are talking about policymakers.
Policymakers. Okay, great. Great. All right.
Because there is a top-down processes that teachers do not have that much voices.
Uh-huh. Okay, great. Thank you. Moises, Andres, and Eric, anything that you'd like to add?
Well, I'm not teaching at the moment. I'll be teaching in the classroom in November, and we'll be combining, I guess, paper-based assessments and some online assessments. That's what I'm thinking.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andres from Argentina, and I work for the Ministry of Education in my province in Argentina. And I'm interested in designing a statal test. Yes, I would like our government to administer a local, I don't know, format of test. Yes. That can integrate the part from the most common tests, international tests, exams. But I would like to add a section where our students can show what they know about our local culture. Yeah. Mm-hmm. A kind of localized, yes, examination that would like to design.
All right, thank you. If you've come just a few minutes late, I just want to remind everyone that we're doing a sort of seminar or discussion-based webinar today. So please, I'm not teaching here as much as I am trying to lead a discussion. So please, we'd like to hear from all of you. Let's go ahead. We want to look now at different aspects of testing and think in terms of our online assessments. And remember, validity simply refers to, are we measuring what we intend to measure, right? So do you feel anyone, and I know everyone probably wants to talk about cheating, which is kind of, a different area, but we'll get to that, but let's, test security is really what that is, right? But, and maybe that influences validity, but really let's try to stick with the question, are there issues with validity in your online assessments? Maybe the limits of, and please, anyone who wants to speak, maybe the limits of the format that you can put online or other issues?
Can I?
Please, anyone, yeah.
Any construct irrelevant issue can jeopardize, endanger the validity of the test. I personally believe that there are some essential, crucial elements which can jeopardize online assessment. Though we repeatedly exposed to this sentence, these students are digital natives. But I personally believe that probably they are good at games or social media. But regarding the LMS, learning management systems, I sometimes see that even uploading a Word document is demanding for them. And it was proved by one of our studies, the students do not have enough or their knowledge of or their technological competence do not suffice. Probably it's not true. I don't know about different contexts. I'm talking about my own context in which I'm working. The second one, the test format. Sometimes, when the reading text, okay, the matter of obliterative forgetting, the students get the gist, but they are forgetting. Some part of reading is in one page, some other parts are in other page, and they confuse between these two pages when they are going, for example, in Canvas, or I don't know, any other, we were using Canvas.
Mhm.
When it is paper, the students have them all in front of him or her. But in a Canvas, if one part is here, the other part is in other sides, it's very demanding because it's a more cognitive load, because they have got a budget of time, they have to do it in a specific time. And I believe that it's confusing, and it's also, it was just one of the, let's say, sometimes the order of the questions. I see that inferential questions, normally we believe that the inferential questions should be at the last questions. Normally start from the easy one, I don't know, scanning, skimming, referential questions or cataphoric, anaphoric, different, which this pronoun refers to. And they sometimes see that the order of the questions are not, let's say, have been arranged with a, let's say, a good insight, with a expertise and knowledge. They were just a few cases. Probably other colleagues would like to add something. I would like to share time with them.
Well, adding to what just Kaveh said, I can just go over two important just issues that I've just noticed in the context of Turkey. One of them is just about the content validity. Basically, I see when it comes to the assessment, specifically the paper assessment, I see they're not adequately covered. The content skills that we have already worked on within the classroom atmosphere in terms of reading, and also just the what you may call a lexical, just the sources. The other one actually is about the constructive validity. Well, we're just those constructive skills that are supposed actually to be measured accurately. Like the writing task seems to be actually lacking in some of the just the circumstances when it comes just to let's say just the assessments. And another issue that I can just deal with the constructed just the validity is the problem that hardly ever can I just come across questions which challenge the critical thinking of the students when it comes to assessment, or maybe just the specific midterm or final exams. These are two other things that I should I want to just add to what Kaveh said.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Do you find that certain skills can be more validly measured online than other skills? For example, in my case, for example, I think perhaps speaking can be measured the most validly online compared with the other skills, but that's my bias. So I wonder what everyone else thinks.
You can say that again. It means I agree, because you have got your questions, you have got your rubrics, And when I'm doing, probably it is also a rate recognition, I ask my students, do not touch your keyboard, just focus on the camera. You have got a paper, just you can take notes, what you would like to express about the questions. Just try not to do you know, the main problem we have got, people or students' mentality is, achievement is much more important than, or outcome is much more than important than processes. Even if you are trying a lot, still some of these students are trying to find just some shortcuts and to just ace the exam. And you are trying to be fair, you are trying to lead them correctly, but you cannot change their mentality, because mentality is, I should pass this course, I should get a good score. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I deal with this all the time with my own students, actually, especially younger ones. I think it's more your sort of high school leavers, you know, this age group that that really has this mentality. And in my experience, you know, in my limited experience, I find that my older, more mature students don't really have this problem or this attitude, but it's the younger ones that really want to give me a product that they think I will be happy with, regardless of how that product was created. Right. Christine, anything to add? Okay. I just want to bring up one more point maybe about validity, which is that often when we consider validity, we consider direct skills measurement. And as I said, I think that if you talk with someone online, if you conduct a kind of interview, you have a really good direct, you can make a really good direct assessment. But when it comes to the other skills, perhaps the limits of the online format limit our abilities to test skills directly. Does anybody else feel that? Any comments? Okay, let's go on to, let's go on to reliability. And remember that when we talk about reliability, we're essentially talking about how consistent our results are. We can talk about many different kinds of reliability, but I don't want to go into too much detail right now about that and drag us off the topic. So I'm wondering, first of all, if you are aware, and maybe this is an area of good news, I'm wondering if all of you are aware that Canvas, for example, has can create reliability reports, whereas in our paper-based tests, we generally, as classroom teachers, have no way to check reliability, or we have very, very basic ideas about the reliability of our tests. But with using something like Canvas, we can actually see reliability scores. Is everyone aware of that? Yeah, it's possible to see, for example, it will give you an overall reliability coefficient for the test. And it will also give you the facility index and the discrimination index for each question. So if you go into the report on Canvas, for example, if you take any test that you've given and go into the report, you can see how difficult or how easy that question was. And if you feel like the question is out of the range that you would like, you would be able to amend the question. You could rewrite the question to try to make it easier or harder. And also, so that's one thing. Discrimination index, if you don't know what that means, it's essentially measuring how the weaker test takers versus the stronger test takers did on any particular question or any particular item. So if we see that our stronger test takers are doing better on an item than our weaker test takers, there's a lot of discrimination. And that's what we would expect. if our weaker test takers are doing just as well as our stronger test takers, there's no discrimination, and that's a kind of a weak item if it doesn't predict who's stronger and who's weaker. So again, if the item is not discriminating well, you could eliminate it and replace it, or you could try to amend it, right? So I think that's one of the good things about Canvas, actually. So it's not all bad news, right? Any comments about reliability then? Is anyone and I know, I mean, in my own context, but I want to ask you, as classroom teachers, writing your own tests and giving them to your own classes, I don't know if anyone here is doing anything larger than that. If anyone's creating tests for entire programs and using them again and again, I don't know. Christine, are you doing that?
No, we're not using. We only have our placement tests that we use over and over again. I'm
sorry, go ahead.
And so, but for our classrooms individually, teachers create their own exams.
Right, and they use them again if they feel like it, or if they don't like them, they make new ones. Right. Yeah, that's very standard, right? Very standard. I mean, that's in my environment, it's almost the same. So probably I'm imagining that for all of us as classroom teachers, we're never even concerned about reliability. We don't even try to measure it. Would that be true?
That would be true.
Yeah. So at least with our online assessments, we can check. And of course, what it is that you're trying to measure, I mean, what these numbers mean will vary greatly depending on what it is you're trying to measure, but at least the numbers are there. Let's go ahead to the one I think that will create the most discussion: security. Do you feel like your students are more likely to cheat when taking tests online?
Yes.
Yes.
Christine, why?
Because it is so easy to use AI now and upload it as your own work.
Right. Yeah.
It's just the number, and it's more difficult to check. I mean, we can tell with a special, there are ways to tell, but it can slip by. You can miss somebody quite easily.
Right.
That's been using that. And
the whole thing about, OpenAI and ChatGPT, et cetera, actually, we're going to do another webinar just on that. Not that you can't talk about it now, but I do have another webinar on that planned for, I think it's January. And this is such a big issue now. I mean, everything is sort of about this these days. And our ELTS conference is going to be basically about that. That's the conference coming up. Yeah. What else besides? I mean, I know that's the big elephant in the room. But besides that, what other ways do you feel like students cheat when they're taking tests online?
They've got their own groups. Probably one or two of the students who are most powerful. They are providing answers, and you see that in some constructed response, they cannot do that much cheating, but in let's say multiple choice or matching, they can do it easily.
Okay. So essentially, students passing answers to other students.
Okay. Yes.
What else? I can give you a long list, but I'm interested in what you say also. Beth, hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Welcome. Where are you coming from today?
From Israel. Sorry, I'm a bit late.
No problem. In Israel. Okay, wonderful. Well, this is very much a discussion-based webinar today. So please feel free to speak up as much as you want.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'll just give you some points that, for myself, and maybe you want to chime in. For one thing, when we give tests online, we don't know who is actually taking the tests, right? That's an issue. We don't know if it's a writing test. We don't know who's really writing those answers, right? It may be the students. We don't know how much help they're getting from any sort of program that helps them. And again, the whole chat GPT is something we're going to save for the future, but there are other things too, as simple as spell check or grammar check, or Google has its own translation program, for example. So we don't know who's actually taking the test. We don't know what sort of unwarranted help they're getting. We also don't know, once that test goes out there, it's so easy for them to get pictures of it or download it, depending on how you've set it up, right? Essentially, once you put it out there once, it's compromised, right? I think that's another issue, is that there's really no security past the initial time that you give the test. So those are some issues. I've also had with I tried for listening tests giving short answer rather than, I think at one point there was this decision to try to in my particular environment, because we wanted them to do note taking as well, to try to have them do short answer instead of multiple choice. The problem was they could get the transcripts very easily. So they could, even if I played the listening to them, they could see where I found it and they could download it themselves. So rather than actually watch it as I wanted them to, they would just turn me off and watch it on their own, where they could get the transcripts, and they could copy and paste directly from the transcript into the, to create the short answers. That was another thing I found. So anyone else?
Michael, I know, well, there is a university in Argentina that when they take the exams, not for English, for other subjects, yes, for the School of Laws, they frozen your screen, yes, so you cannot access any other web page than the one where you have your exam, yes, and you have a camera that points to you, so everything is recorded, so you cannot make any movement, strange movements. You cannot turn off your microphone. So if anyone is helping you, they will hear it. Yes. So I suppose there are systems that where they need the teachers, the administrators, recommendations, supports, requests to program a specific software or tool to take an exam.
Yeah, Andres. That's a really interesting concept. Anyone else want to make a comment? I have a comment about that, but I'm wondering if anyone else wants to make a comment about that, because yeah.
Sorry, Michael, I missed that train. Which one you were talking about?
About what Andres just said about programs or software that monitor the test takers as they're taking tests online, so that it's not impossible, but at least it makes it more difficult to cheat.
But I personally believe that if someone is supposed to cheat, he will find the solution to it as well.
Okay, yeah. So there's the cat and mouse thing. Actually, anyone else want to make a comment? Because
I'd like to share my own personal experience with that. What happened the preceding semester, from the very beginning of the course, I let my students know that, hey guys, what matters to me is just the sessions that you are attending, and you can feel free just during the online assessments to copy and help out each other. And just throughout the course, what happened? What I'm just saying is that it is not just that hour of the assessment that we shall actually worry about. It is somewhere else, just that we shall just take into account. And throughout the course, I was able just to win their trust that the reason that I'm just here, and the assessment is not just to push you to the limits. Actually, just they want to just find out how far you have just made the advancement. And surprisingly, though they were free, according to the scores that they got actually, I found out that almost 80 or 90% of my just students hadn't copied answers from each other, and they were just relying on their own actually just knowledge and potentials. You know, this is what happened. I personally experienced in my classroom.
Okay. Anyone else? I just want to point out to Andres's point that we actually had that discussion in my university, in our setting. And we felt that although there are, and I think you're talking about, Andres, the Ministry of Education that at this level that's doing this, right? And these are for very large, high-stake exams. Yeah, that's a bit different. But at you know, in my program, in my department, we had a similar discussion, and we decided we didn't want, although that software is available, we don't have any, but and it's probably expensive to buy. I don't know about that, but it's probably pretty expensive. But we also decided we as teachers are essentially on our students' side, and our main role is to help them learn. And then so to be in this nurturing role, and then to sort of turn around and suddenly be policemen and use all the technology at our disposal to try to catch them cheating is just sending out the wrong signal to them. Now, of course, we're perhaps erring on the side of, you know, letting students get away with things that we could prevent. I know that. But on the other hand, if we were to crack down as much as we could during exams, and these are not only like final exams, we're talking about every little teacher-made test and quiz, right? If we were to play that role, it would go a long way to break down the more important role as teachers, as facilitators in their learning that we would like to play. So that's a big issue, I think, when it comes to sort of, you know, using all the powers of the police to make sure they don't cheat online. And I know we do that in class too, right? We tell them, you know, put away your things and etc. But I think they're more used to that, and I think they find that's very fair in class on paper-based tests. I don't think it's a big issue to have some rules, but when we sort of crack down in this way, it seems, well, we felt that it could be something different. Anyone else want to make a comment? Beth, anything?
Well, I just think that maybe the way we approach assessment has to be different now because of all these things. You know, I mean, I can just remember from my own perspective being a teacher, and you think like, well, when are they going to trust that we're going to be professional and not worry that we're going to cheat? But I know there are people that do cheat. So I think maybe the way it's just, you know, because of all these new, you know, generative AI and things like this, we're going to have to look at things just a little bit differently and figure out a new way to deal with assessment, because the old way is not going to work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think.
Anyone else? Let's go ahead and talk about practicality. So has online testing made tests easier to create or administer? I think that's the first question.
I mean, tests are tests, you know, no matter, you know, how you deliver them. I think the whole thing is whether or not the students are able to, you know, it depends on how high stakes they are about what they do with it, and if they cheat, if they want to cheat. So, I mean, the whole idea is that it's not just about learning anymore, it's about succeeding. And when it gets to that point, then of course people are going to try to do whatever they can to pass. And online is a really a hard environment to make things, like you were saying, make things secure. There's no way to really make it secure online. So I don't know what the answer is to that, but
certainly in terms of practicality, certainly any kind of multiple choice, true, false is computer scored now, right? If we give it online. So it sort of lightens our load a little bit in that way, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's certainly easier to administer. I mean, that's one of the reasons we've hung on to some online testing as part of our course, or our teachers will upload courses into the online format so that they can just, it's easier to administer, it's easier to collect.
Mhm.
But it can make tests harder to create because you're not in a face-to-face environment anymore to see how things are going.
I think part of the answer is what I've seen as far as especially because of the new environment that we're in, is that you have to put reflection as part of the answer. And reflection is a very personal kind of experience. So if you add that into the mix, then it's not something that they can just go ask ChatGPT to generate for them. It has to be, they have to understand what they did in the course or what they are doing in a particular assignment, and give a response back particularly to that. And if you can weave that into the answer, that it's some kind of reflection of what they've done either in the course or for a particular project, then that can help kind of mitigate the cheating, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
In my case, online tests allow me to save a lot of time. I have lots of tests designed in Google Forms, so they are very simple. I can reuse them. I complement them with a class session. For example, for the online tests, I prepare the reading comprehension activities, vocabulary, yeah. In some cases, writing, the composition. And then I save time, keep time for the speaking part. And that part, I take it in class, in the classroom. Yeah. So for me, online tests are very useful. They are cheaper, I suppose, because you you have them on your computer, on your, I don't know, your site, your memory. Yes, so I find many advantages with online tests.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks. Let's go ahead. Test formats. Do you feel that online testing has limited your ability to design tests the way that you would like? I think this is one of the, well, I'll leave it to you.
You know, Michael, that now I like to complement traditional tests with a session with the application of another methodology, like a STEAM methodology, you know. So apart from the traditional standard tests, I try to make my students use the language with something productive, let's say. So that's the way I try to implement assessment in my lessons.
Anyone else? I mean, does anyone feel that there were sort of test formats? I'll just give you one very limited example. I mean, we have, of course, the ability to do multiple choice, to do short answer. We know all of these things, right? But I think when we went online in 2020, I was teaching in a course where we did a lot of vocabulary tests. There were sort of, with every reading, they had to take these vocabulary tests. And these were, of course, paper-based tests where they had to mix identifying vocabulary words and then doing gap fills with some of the same vocabulary words, and then finally writing out sentences. And we found that really hard to mix all of these formats and put them online on the online format that we had in a way that was easily gradable. So that was one thing that just sort of went by the wayside, and we just went to all multiple choice. So we were just giving them sentences with the vocabulary word missing, and they had to choose from 4 options, right? That's just one very limited example of how, one very small example of how the format that's been forced on us by online tests has changed the way, limited the way we're able to test. So again, does anyone feel that there were things you could do with paper-based tests that you simply can't really do in your online format?
I think you can really control the environment a lot better when you're in a paper and pencil test where you're in person. Online is such a big question mark about who's there and what's happening. And I remember hearing a story about where I was working before, and apparently one of the students worked in the library and told the librarian how during COVID for exams, all the students would go to one person's house and they would sit in a circle. So because we had cameras, they had to turn on their cameras, but then they would sit in a circle and have somebody run around between the students and give them the answers to share the answers. So it's like they find really inventive ways of cheating when it's online. But when it's in person, you can really control the environment much easier. Even though it's a lot more labor intensive, it's a much cleaner environment to be able to control. So I do think it makes a big difference.
Anyone think there are any advantages of the online format?
It has got its own advantages. You can do it to a lot of participants, and test easiness, or it is easy to do these types of tests. I couldn't find the correct word. User-friendly, probably. What else it could be? Machine scoring. 80-70% of the test is scored or rated by machine. Yes, you just score or rate the constructed responses. And I can remember these.
I know one of the dilemmas with now that we're facing OpenAI and ChatGPT, et cetera, is that one way to make sure that our students aren't having computers write their essays for them is to simply have them in the classroom and doing paper-based tests, right? Just sitting them down in the classroom and having them write it out on paper. But the counter argument is that is so far removed from what they're going to do outside the testing environment that we really have to consider if what we want to do is bring them back into the classroom and have them write, or I'm only talking about writing here, and have them write, essays essentially in class with no support, because that's simply not how we write in real life, right? In a non-testing situation. Any thoughts about that?
You know, I've thought a lot about this as a writing teacher, and the thing is that we want to prepare them for what their life is going to be like later, and we know that they're all going to be using AI as soon as they can, whenever they can. I mean, I myself use it as much as I can now. I mean, so I remember I've been watching a lot of different webinars, and in one case, one high school teacher, a lot of teachers actually integrate AI into their assignments. So they say, okay, here, you summarize this article, and then have ChatGPT summarize it, and then compare the two summaries. And so you actually have them use the AI to help them do their assignments. And in this case, you know, they still have to do some critical thinking on their own. But you're not telling them don't use it, because we know that they're going to be using it. And I think it's ridiculous if we know that in their real, world life or their work life, they're going to be using this, that we don't actually teach them how to use it the best possible way. So I think that's important too. So.
Yeah, I think sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. Kabe?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
In
no.
1970s, when the flux of people were coming to United States, there was a job analysis. For a taxi driver, there was a job analysis and what kind of language he or she will need. And based on those job analysis, they were providing some kind of English. And later on, this was used as a model, domain analysis, and they were trying to design task-based language assessment. And I believe that John May Norris, Tim McNamara, and so many others worked on it. Regarding writing, it is again my personal conviction. There should be a kind of needs analysis. What really they will need it in their real life, okay? Because after genre analysis, they believe that for each type of writing, the students should follow different types of genre. But still there are universities, they are still insisting on compare, contrast, argumentative essay, I don't know, classification essay, okay? Because there is no panacea, just a single, let's say, recipe, everyone can read it, because everyone needs is so different. And sometimes even in our working class, I say to the colleagues, to the head, we are walking in the dark. We don't know what we are doing really meets their needs because it is a foundation school. After 1 year, they are going to the department. And this type of English really meet their needs or not. Whether really do they need to know how to write classification essay, or they will need to, for example, know how to write a report, a laboratory report, or I don't know how to do a presentation skills. Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're working in a prep program in Turkey where you're preparing students for their, English medium university experience,
yes.
I think really to some degree, the question is to what extent are the classes there based on this Anglo-American format where people write papers in all their classes, right? They may not. They might only have to read their textbooks and listen to lectures and take standardized tests. And there may not be much emphasis on doing any kind of research. There may not be good libraries there. I don't know. So to what extent is writing the college essay going to form a part of their education in their context? I think when we talk about needs analysis, that would be a big question as to whether they need to do this traditional
If I'm not making mistakes, even in United States, when the English is L1 of so many people, they are also studying tree composition within the 4-year studies. They learn how to write what, let's say, major or field they are studying, because writing is by itself is an ocean. You couldn't say that I taught writing, because writing is so vast. What type of writing did you teach? Because it is too vast. And I believe that, and I repeatedly reiterate in so many our, let's say, meetings, we need some kind of needs analysis based on students, professors, lecturers, research assistants, and both interview and survey to see what are real needs of students, instead of, I don't know, asking them to write so many things. Probably those writings will not be that much fruitful, useful for them in their department.
Right. And that's the thing. Well, do they write at all in their programs is, I think, one of the questions, right?
Yes. If the program is in English, for example, in a chemistry class, a professor could ask for a laboratory report. It could be, you should, I don't know, write a report and you should present it to the class. What did you do in a laboratory? What was the findings? And report writing, or I don't know, writing synopsis. If you are going to do any kind of research, 1 or 2 pages of synopsis for graduate studies, I don't know, in a dentistry or medical science also, when they are visiting some patients, probably they have to write some reports to their professors, what practically the GPs learn when they were visiting the hospitals.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think one of the issues, one of the dilemmas here is the fact that there's this whole industry, created by textbook companies who really know what they're doing. I mean, there's a lot of history to this and a lot of experience in producing textbooks to teach how to write the academic essay, especially, in our case, for second language students. There's, scores of books out there, old ones, new ones, all the major publishers have them. And they're good at that, right? They're good at producing those. I mean, but then the question of, well, is this really what our students' needs are? That's a really tough question, right? Because they already know how to do this, and to change gears that way would be very, very difficult, I think. So there's a whole industry behind promoting and perpetuating this sort of liberal arts academic writing. And I think it's a very good question, to what degree many students actually need to learn that, right, as second language English learners. Other comments? Feel free to disagree. I mean, I don't have a corner on the truth here.
I don't think it's a matter of I think there's value in teaching students how to write so that they can understand what they're reading, because I think that goes a long way to helping them understand when they're reading, academic articles. But, I think the thing that we miss is that they need to understand critical thinking. I mean, in order to write, you have to be a critical thinker. And maybe if they go to generative AI, they can do all of that stuff. But I really think that it's a real art that's being lost, is the ability to write academically. But, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I totally accept your idea. The problem is we couldn't find whether in a specific context I'm talking, what we are teaching really meets their needs for their department. Does really it prepare students for their real challenges they will have in there? And another point, which is missing in our university. It is writing center, because writing by itself is fine. But if you do not have anyone who will comment on it, who will not try to brush it up, who will not try to make your writing much better, because, all teachers, one of the daunting tasks for them is feedback provision, because it is labor demanding, time demanding, and teachers are running very busy and hectic life.
Any other comments? Any last comments? We need to wrap up in a few minutes. Such a big issue, right?
Very big.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming today. We are going to try from now through December to sort of change the format, as I said, and I want to make these webinars much more participatory. And again, that's not from any feedback. Up until today, they were much more sort of lectures and assessment, and maybe that's the way we want to go. Yeah, please.
We did a study in Turkey. Probably it is not that much irrelevant to your presentation today.
No, I'd like to hear about it.
It's a kind of phenomenological study. We did interview and also frame narrative to find out what are the main challenges of their e-assessment or online assessment were in Turkish context. Infrastructure was one of them. Ethics was another one. Ethics or students' cheating issues. Teachers and students' digital literacy. Because, suddenly we switched to the online teaching, and because there wasn't enough in-service, pre-service training on online issues. Psychological issues like stress, anxiety on both sides, both teachers and students. I mentioned infrastructure, I mentioned psychology, policy and planning. Administers policy and planning was also because there is a logic here, and say that we did it and it happened. No, you did it. Probably the consequences was disaster. Okay, policy and planning. And I forgot the last one. And the paper will be published before 2024 in Call EG. If you are interested, I will share with them.
Yeah, please let us know. Really, please let us know. I really do have to wrap it up now. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for listening, especially thanks for participating. Next month, we're going to do another workshop-based webinar. So please come with your ideas, your thoughts, and most.
Dear Michael, Sam, in order to be a member of this ELTSociety, what he should do?
Join. Essentially join.
No. I mean, we have been member. Is there any form, anything you would like to register to become a member of this? Because we regularly get conferences, update news, and everything.
So check with I mean, Sam, are you a registered member?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so you essentially need to go to the website and join. That's the first thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. I will.
So so next month we'll have another sort of interactive webinar on interaction, an interactive webinar on interaction, believe it or not, mediation and electronic communication, and that comes out of the CEFR, the companion guide, actually, a 2019 companion guide. So we'll talk about that next time. I really need to get moving here. So thank you everyone for participating, and I hope to see you next month.
Thank you.
Appreciate, dear Michael, for your time, for your perseverance, for your sharing, for everything.
You're welcome. Thank you.